Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite non-romance books that I read in 2024. Back with my next end of the year content video, and that is talking about my favorite non-romances that I read in 2024. So honestly, this was the year that I was going to read more outside of the romance genre, and I did not do that. We failed. Yeah, but I want to do better, and that's definitely my goal for next year, but that is for another day when we talk about our goals for 2025. And I really haven't talked about any of these. I've only talked about, I think, just a few of these. So that's exciting. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books to talk about, so I don't even have like 10. I did read some other books that were outside the romance genre, but they weren't my favorites and aren't really worth talking about in my opinion. So these are just my top 7 favorite books that I read, and I have them broken down into different categories. First, I'm going to be starting out with historical and also magical realism. The first one is more historical fiction, historical romance. It's not really romance. The romance comes a little bit later in the series, but that is the Veronica Speedwell series. So I have heard about this series forever, and I just finally decided to pick it up on a whim. The audiobooks are available on Hoopla, so check your Hoopla. Your Hoopla may have it. And I was so excited to start this one because I've heard really good things, and this was so much fun. So this takes place in the 1800s in London, and I loved it. Honestly, this is a mystery series, kind of reminiscent of Sherlock Holmes, kind of think in that realm. And we're following our heroine, Veronica Speedwell. Now, Veronica Speedwell is, honestly, she's kind of giving I'm not like other girls, but due to the time period, I understand why she's kind of rebelling against, you know, how society wants her to be. And she really doesn't have any family or anything like that, so she's kind of on her own. But this is such a fun series. I read the first 2 books in the series, and both of them have 2 different mysteries, so I believe we're following different mysteries, and Veronica and Stoker are kind of figuring out the mysteries in these. So not only is the books so fun, I love Veronica, I love the audiobook as well. The audiobook is narrated very nicely. It has a British narration, so I love it. The writing is engaging and fun, but also we're learning about Veronica Speedwell and her background. So we learned a little bit about that in the first book, learned a little bit about it in the second book. So I think that's something that we're going to be continuing to learn more about Veronica Speedwell, her life, her background, which I very much so enjoyed. She's kind of she definitely goes against the grain, and I love it. Her and Stoker, we get to see how they meet in the first book. They are hilarious. Their banter is fantastic. They are going to have a romance. It's very slow burn. I haven't really got to the romance yet, but there's a ton of chemistry between them, and I just really enjoyed this one. It's such a fun ride. So this is not, I don't know what you would really categorize this in, mystery or historical fiction. I'm not quite sure, but I really enjoyed this one. I definitely will be continuing. I think the series is still ongoing. It has quite a few more books, but I just love it. Really love it. So if you like Sherlock Holmes, then I think this is definitely your vibe. It kind of gave me those same vibes, and I'm just excited to continue with the series. Okay, next we have The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. So this is my first book by this author. It definitely won't be my last. This definitely has an historical fiction feel, but also this book has some magical realism, which I really enjoy. Magical realism. It's definitely a genre that I want to read more of, and this one I found to be so interesting. So I know I haven't talked about this book because I read it, I believe it was in July or August, and we're essentially following June Farrow, and we go on quite the journey with June. In June's life, the women in her bloodline are considered to be cursed. Her grandmother has recently passed away, and she's absolutely devastated. She loved her grandmother, and also she's devastated because she is starting to show some of the symptoms that the women in her life, the women in her family have experienced. She's trying to hide it, but she's definitely really scared. She's having some moments where she's kind of seeing things. She doesn't know if they're real or if it's like the curse that's happening. But she finds herself somewhere, has no idea what the heck is going on. There's a lot of secrets. This book takes you on a really crazy ride, a really crazy journey to see what is going on with the Pharaoh women. And is she crazy? Are these women in this family crazy? Are they really cursed? What the heck is going on? I loved it. It was such a fun ride. I definitely think the ending didn't stick the landing for me, and it ultimately made it to where it wasn't quite a true 5 stars. I don't know what I gave it. I might have given it 4 stars on Goodreads, but it's definitely a 5-star read. The writing was really, really great. There's definitely some slow moments in this book, but the groundwork for the book is really good. The foundation is really good. Immediately intrigued in the story. There's a lot of things going on. You're trying to connect the dots. There's also, of course, a romance element to the story that I loved. I just really fell in love with this story with June, and it was a really crazy and unique journey, and I enjoyed it. Just really beautiful writing, really, like I said, engaging, and although it had its slow moments, I really loved the story, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, that I didn't mind it too much. Like I said, the ending didn't stick the landing for me 100%. I think it could have done a better job just because the story is, it's a intense and hard story. There's definitely a lot going on, and I think it is kind of hard to perfectly end a book like this, but I still felt very satisfied with the ending. I was happy with how it all ended. You go on quite the journey with this book, and if you want something that's very interesting, unique, if you like magical realism, then I think you really enjoy this one. And if you like some mystery, some thrilling moments, it's got all of it. This is definitely a book that has a lot of different genres mixed in one, and I'm always interested and intrigued to see how an author handles bringing all of these things into one story, and I think this author did a really fantastic job. So I definitely want to read more by this author. I actually have an arc to her next book coming out, and I'm really excited to read that one as well. But this is definitely a book I would highly recommend you read and add to your TBR if you haven't read it yet. Thrillers. So I didn't read nearly as many thrillers as I usually do, and I definitely miss them, but I read 2, and one is more of a psychological read than a true thriller. It's thrilling moments, but the first one is The Family Experiment by John Marrs. I really enjoy John Marrs' science fiction, or I don't know what you call it. Is it speculative fiction? Series that he has. It's definitely sci-fi. I've read The Passengers. I haven't read, I think it's The Marriage Act, and then we have The Family Experiment. So all of these books connect because they take place in the same world where, you know, science is very technologically advanced, and there's different things going on in all of these books. And what I love is that John Marrs really, these books are not far off from happening. I really think he's onto something. If you like Black Mirror, I've only seen 1 episode of Black Mirror, but if you like Black Mirror, then this series by John Marrs is definitely for you. It's not a series that you have to read in order. Like I said, I skipped one. They're all just science fiction-y, and like I said, take place in the same world. They all connect. They all kind of will mention storylines and things from the other books. It helps to read it. I think it really enhances the experience, but you don't have to. I did skip The Marriage Act because I was more interested in The Family Experiment. So in this world, AI has really taken over. And although sci-fi, you know, technology is really advanced, we have AI and it's very, again, advanced. The society is definitely struggling. You know, families are struggling. People who want to have kids just can't have them because it is so expensive. So this company came out with this idea to come up with this technology where people can have children in this metaverse kind of thing. And you get to experience having a child from them being a child to adulthood. And the period of life is much faster. So a kid grows up much faster. Now, in this book, there is a reality show that allows contestants to compete, you know, to be able to do this. And you get to actually see these people have children, you know, in this metaverse, raise their kid. And like I said, the kids grow up really, really fast. It's an extended, you know, accelerated period with these children. And on the reality show, it's 24/7. You get to see them 24/7. Definitely gives like Big Brother kind of vibes. And people get to vote on you know, who their favorite is in the reality show. And John Mars touched on so much in this book. You know, the themes and the things that he tackles in this entire series I find to be so interesting. And we're talking about AI and we're talking about certain things right now in our world, and it really just mirrored that, which was so just crazy interesting to me. Tackling reality TV, and the commentary on that, just so much commentary on a lot of different things. It's so interesting just to have this viewpoint of just how the positive and the negatives of technology and how scary it can be, but also how amazing it could be, because some of these people have children or whatever. So we're following a large group of characters. So you do have to keep up with all the different characters. Highly recommend the audio if you can keep up with it. The audiobook has a large cast, but it just really was amazing to listen to. And I honestly just had no idea what I was in for with this book, because this book takes you on a really crazy ride. There's so many twists and turns. It's one of those books that you definitely want to come up with your own kind of theories as to what's happening or how it's going to end. And I honestly didn't guess it. It really just went there, and I had so much fun with the ride. It was really crazy, really fascinating. I find John Mars to be really creative. I think The One is my favorite in this series, but it's just such a creative series that I find to be so interesting and honestly scary just to think about how I think these things could actually come to fruition and actually happen in our world. But it was just very interesting, crazy book. I definitely recommend if you like sci-fi, if you like thrillers. This is definitely a really great one. Very interesting read, and John Mars is a really, really great writer and just very creative, and definitely one of the most creative and unique books that I have read. Okay, next we have Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. So this is more of a psychological book, okay? It definitely is not really a thriller. I've read a couple books by Sally Hepworth, and I find that it's kind of hard to put her in a category, honestly, because her books aren't really thrillers. They're not even really mysteries. They're kind of definitely focused more on the psychology of the characters, their actions, and it's something that I really think is interesting. So just want to throw that out there, because I find that she's put into the thriller category, and I think people can be disappointed by that, when definitely she's more of like a psychological writer, and that's what she's definitely more focused on. But Darling Girls is essentially about these three women, and these three women are called by the police because there was a body that was found under their childhood home, and they're being asked to come to their childhood home. The officers just have some questions and follow up for them. Now, these three women are sisters by adoption and fostering, and so when these women go back to their childhood home, it brings back a lot of memories, a lot of hard memories. They were adopted. I think they were all adopted by this woman who caused them a lot more trauma than what they already went through, and they have a story with her for sure. So in this book, we go back to the women, so we get to see where they are now, and then we go back in the past to see how they ended up all together and in this home, and we get their backgrounds, their stories, and what they went through in that house. It was such an interesting story. I absolutely loved it. Sally Hepworth does a lot of character work in this one, just very invested in all of the individual women and their background and their stories. And I was just so intrigued by how it all came together in the end. It was good, and the ending was really nice. It had a really nice little twist in the end that I found to be very, very good and very interesting. But I really enjoyed this one. It was so good. I think Sally Hepworth is a very, very talented author, a very talented writer. This was one of those books that when I finished it, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And then I thought about it and I'm like, no, that was really, really good. So next we're moving into literary fiction. This is a genre that I want to read more of. I've said it like I think this entire year, but I just really like the idea of literary fiction reads. My issue with literary fiction is I think that because it has such a slice of life feel to it, that there's not enough plot. And I definitely did feel that with this book sometimes, but overall I really did enjoy it. So this is Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. I believe I said that name correctly. I believe this is a debut book by this author. But this book is already going to be made. I believe it's either a movie or a limited series. Hopefully it's a limited series starring Elle Fanning. And she actually narrated this book and she did fantastic. So she's going to do a really good job of starring in this film or limited series. But this book is a very popular book that I saw all literary girls, fiction girls talking about on Instagram. And I listened to it. First of all, fantastic on audio. Really recommended. Elle Fanning is an actress, so I feel like she did a really good job of bringing Margot to life and just narrating this story. I love this story. I think this is a very unique story, and when I started it, I didn't know what the book was about or where it was going, and it was such a fun surprise. So in this one, we're following our heroine, Margot. Margot is a young woman who is simply lost. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She has a lot of different things going on in her life. She's having an affair with her English teacher who is married. She knows he's married. She actually ends up pregnant by him, and he wants nothing to do with the baby. And now she's on her own. She's not in college. She, like I said, struggling with her job to make ends meet. She needs to figure this out. She has a very complicated relationship with her parents. She doesn't even have her own apartment. Like, she just has a lot going on, and she's really got to figure out her life because she does decide that she wants to keep her baby. She wants to be a mother. And basically, she decides that she's going to join OnlyFans. And that is where the plot really takes off, is Margot being pregnant, deciding that she wants to have her baby, and deciding that she starts an OnlyFans. She starts to make some money for it, and she decides this is what she's going to do. This is how she's going to take care of her baby. That sounds so simple, but the character development of Margot is probably some of the best that I've read, definitely this year. I love that the most. Her character just went on this crazy journey. We really got to see her come into her own as a woman and as a mother, as a businesswoman, and really just seeing her learn how to stand up for herself, come up with her own things and beliefs and how she feels about things. I just ended up falling in love with this story, the relationship that she has with her dad, the love that she has for her baby and becoming a mother. I just love this book so much. It was really great. I was engaged in the story the entire time, and the narration just really brought this book to a whole new level for me. So if you have not read this book and it sounds interesting to you, I definitely encourage you to give it a try. I think it's a good literary fiction book to kind of start off with because it definitely gives you that slice of life kind of feel to it. There's no romance at all. I definitely did miss that in the book, but this was really fantastic. I highly recommend it, and this one is really fantastic, and I cannot wait to see the adaptation of it because I think this is going to be really great in whatever way it's brought to life. Last section is cozy. So I have a cozy mystery, and then I don't know what to call this one. It's just cozy. It's not a fantasy, but it is a cozy read. So the first one is The Body in the Bookstore by Ellie Alexander. This is the first book in the Secret Bookcase mystery series. So I want to read more cozy mysteries. I say it all the time, but I love cozies. I've read quite a few. I've read a handful of them, and I've enjoyed every single one I've read. It's just not a genre that I find myself reaching for, and that's a shame because I really do love a good cozy mystery, like a who doesn't? And when you find one that's so good and so cute and interesting, you just want to read it. And this is the first book in this series by Ellie Alexander. Ellie Alexander is honestly, she's one of the queens of cozy mysteries. I've read quite a bit of books by her from her series, 3 different series that she has out, and I've enjoyed every single one of them. I just think that she is such a great writer, and I really enjoy her books. They're really easy to get into. The mysteries are fun. Some are kind of dark and interesting, and I enjoy seeing it all unravel and come together, and this is one of those. And this one is available on Kindle Unlimited. All the audiobooks are on Hoopla, so very easily to read for me, and that is one of the reasons why I was able to pick this one up so quickly. So in this one, we're following Annie Murray. She's a bookseller. She works at a bookstore, And in this first book, she is coming up with a mystery themed event at the bookstore. She's doing this to kind of help revive the bookshop that she works at. And there is a murder that happens, and the person who is there to investigate is actually one of her old professors at the college that she graduated from. She actually wanted to, she has a degree, I believe it's in criminology, so she wanted to be an investigator, but things didn't work out. So with this happening, it's bringing up a lot of different things for Annie. First of all, she is able to kind of use her background to help solve this mystery, save the festival, all these things. But also, this brings up a lot of things from her past, because the reason why Annie didn't pursue becoming an investigator anymore is because her best friend was unfortunately murdered, and it really had an effect on Annie. She blames herself for it. She just really struggles with this. And in the background of these books is her figuring out what happened to her best friend. So we have a main mystery that's happening in each book in this town, which I love. I love the town. And then we have this background story of Annie figuring out what happened to her best friend. And on top of it, this series is perfect for all of the book lovers out there. I just really love it. I love the small town. What I love so much about Cozy Mysteries is the quirky characters and the side characters. I love it, and this one is so much fun. This one's very different from some of the other books that she's written, and a little bit different, in my opinion, than some other cozies, because some cozies are foodie cozies and stuff like that, but this one is based in a bookstore. I just really enjoyed it. Very easy to read. I thought the mystery was really well done, and it was fun. I love how it all came together. I've enjoyed the couple books that I've read in the series, and I'm definitely really excited to continue. I think the next one is like a Valentine's Day themed one, so I definitely want to get to that one. But I just really enjoyed this series, and I'm excited to read more by Ellie Alexander, more cozies, and definitely in this series. Okay, but last but not least is a cozy, mystical, witchy, paranormal read, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I really hope I'm saying the author's name correctly. I have not talked about this book, but this will absolutely end up on my favorites of the year list. I absolutely love this book. This book was fantastic. This one came out in 2022, so it is a backlist read for me. And what a shame that I haven't read it until now. All the things that I've heard about this book are true. I absolutely love this. And I read it in October, which is like the most perfect time to read this book. It's also a good wintry read as well. This book just crept up on me. This author's writing was so beautiful, majestic, whimsical, just like gave me all the feels. This book was full of healing and hope and found family. Everything that I love in a book is right here. This is my favorite non-romance that I've read, and it does have a romance in it, but that's not the category that it's in or anything. This definitely has a really beautiful story, and man, did I just fall in love with our main character and these characters, and I just loved every minute that I had with this book. It was really fantastic on audio. I just truly cannot recommend this book enough. So in this book, we're following Mika. So Mika is a witch, and in this world, witches really live in solitude. It is very dangerous to show that you are a witch, and witches have to hide who they really are for their safety of themselves, but their entire race. And so it's quite lonely being a witch. Now, Mika, there is a few witches that get together, and but that is like the extent of Mika's kind of interaction with other witches. Now, something that Mika does that I think is very funny is she actually has this online persona where she pretends to be a witch, and she actually gets a message from someone who's like, I know that you're a witch, and they actually ask her to come to a place called Nowhere House because they need help. She doesn't know what she's getting into, but she's very curious, and when she gets there, she doesn't even know that this is going to change her life forever. Her going to Nowhere House is going to change her life as she knows it. So when Mika gets to Nowhere House, she finds out that there are 3 young witches who need her help. These three young witches are so powerful, and one of the reasons why it's important for witches to be alone is because witches are very powerful. And when you get more than one witch together, it's very hard to hide this because, like I said, it is very dangerous for people to find out if you are a witch. You are in danger, and you're putting other witches in danger as well. So that's why witches have to be separated and live in solitude, essentially, from other witches. And so there's these three young witches who are living in this home together, and they are so powerful and so strong, and it is causing it's dangerous to them and the other people who live in the house. Those people is Jamie, it's the love interest, and he is the librarian who lives in the home. But all the people in that house love these witches and they just want to help them as much as they can. So Mika ends up helping. She decides to stay and help the young witches, and she ends up falling in love with the family, with the home. For Jamie, this book has a lot of themes of trauma. Mika has gone through a lot of trauma in her life, and you know, when you have to hide who you are, it definitely makes you feel very lonely, and you are essentially really lonely. She hasn't had a family. She doesn't really have friends. So seeing this found family, it's something that she aches for. And when she starts thinking to herself that maybe she can have this too, it's very hard and very difficult for Mika to work through so deeply for every single character. The three young girls are hilarious, and all of the different personalities in that home, the way that they love each other, protect each other, they're there for one another, and the way they love those girls, and the way they accepted Mika, and Mika just felt so at home with them. But it was so scary. Like, it's so scary to put yourself out there and to just take that risk, or risk, you know, being disappointed and hurt. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And just seeing Mika, you know, work through those things to get there, it was really beautiful. So, you know, our home is a safe space for so many people to come and find solace and peace and comfort. And I also found that in this book. This was just really beautiful. And honestly, I just fell for it so hard, and my heart just loves these characters so much. So if you're going to take one recommendation from this video, it should be this one. This one blew me away. The effect it had on me was so amazing. I just feel so deeply connected to this book, these characters, the writing. Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. And I loved how diverse these characters are. Everything about this book is perfect. One of my new favorite books of all time. I'm so grateful that these kind of books exist for me to read these kind of stories. All my non-favorite romance books of 2024. Let me know what books you guys read that were non-romances that you loved. Have you read any of these? Let me know. But thank you all so much for watching today's video. I will see you guys in my next one.